Hello and welcome to the Long Talk here on New Zealand Sport Radio. And you know what? They do say sort of don't meet your heroes and stuff. Now, perhaps that's stretching a little bit for Jason, but he is a person I've wanted to chat to for a long time because he is a player who used to play for my team, Exeter Chiefs. And there we go. So really looking forward to this one. So welcome, Jason Shoemark. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Paul. How are you?
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Getting used to life in level 2 now. And as you say, yeah, first day back in the office. The place hasn't been ransacked or anything. Everything's sort of where it used to be.
Yeah, it still looks like it's in working order. So yeah, no, it's good to be back though. Good to see the office boys and have a bit of banter again.
And your current role, because you're down in Hawke's Bay as the Academy Player Development Manager. But you also get involved in some assistant coaching with Magpies as well. Yeah,
so I look after the young academy boys here in Hawke's Bay, and also help out Oz and Josh Sims with a bit of the Magpie stuff as well, which is a good lead-in with my academy guys. So yeah, that's me at the moment.
But obviously you didn't start down there. You started up in Northland, and another one of the Tanifar boys. But what was your very first rugby memory?
Just as a 4 or 5 year old running around Kensington Park up in Whangarei there, and used to play for a club called Convent, which is now turned into Marist up there. And yeah, just running around barefoot in the freezing cold there. And then obviously those days you could jump in and play for another team. I used to hang around Kensington Park probably till about lunchtime from 9 o'clock in the morning, just trying to jump in any game that I could.
Were you also one of these guys who would play sort of rugby on a Saturday and then a bit of league on Sunday?
No, I never really got into the leagues. For me, it was, rugby on a Saturday and then, cricket and basketball and that in the summer.
And you're another one whose dad used to get you up in the middle of the night with a mug of Milo to watch overseas test matches?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. Plenty of times I remember, getting up, watching the All Blacks play, and it was a big part of life back then, that's for sure.
So we were talking with Rennie Ranger yesterday, and it seems like for him, he was sort of just playing club footy, never and sort of the professional side of it just came as a bit of a surprise at the end. At what kind of stage did you think, actually, I can make some money out of this playing rugby?
I suppose you always, growing up, obviously wasn't professional when I was a young guy, and then obviously turned professional back in, 2006? No, 1996, sorry. And I suppose I made New Zealand 16s. God, I can't even remember now. 1996, I think it was, 97, and then made New Zealand 19s, sort of 1999, 2000, 2001. So I suppose it was probably around there when I was making those teams that maybe I thought I could kick on and make that professional ranks.
So did you stick around in Whangarei, or did you head down to Auckland for your first 15 and for your high school?
No, so I went to a little Catholic school up in Whangarei called Pompelia College, and our first 15 rugby was pretty much based on a Wednesday afternoon. We'd go and play some other local high school. So all club rugby up there at the time was, you played for your club. So I played for Marist up there. And then we'd play the odd school club, odd school game on the Wednesday, really. So first 15 wasn't such a big thing back then for us.
So obviously dealing with the academy guys now, how do you feel that kind of works? Do you think that staying in the club all the way through would help sort of get that club loyalty and keep people in the game, or do you think actually going away to the high schools where there's more resources and then coming back to the clubs is actually a better sort of route for them?
Yeah, it's probably a bit of a political question. Look, I think there's arguments for both. Obviously club rugby, if you can keep them in that same club, and then the transfer through the age groups has its benefits. But obviously the schools, they've obviously got great competitions at the moment, especially the bigger schools, and the coaching they get through that is pretty good as well. So, there's arguments for both sides, and, that debate still rages on now, whether you should be playing for your school or whether the club rugby guys should hold on to you. So I won't get into that, which is better.
You don't get into that one. Okay, I'm a proponent for people staying in their clubs to get that long, so that the grassroots sort of keeps. We don't have the same drop off after school. But there you go. That's for the sort of the non-professional pathway. But that,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But there you go. That's just my opinion. So yeah, so you're playing under 19s. Got your first taste with Northland in '99. As you say, that's early days of professionalism. How does that compare to the setup that you're providing the players now compared to the setup you had back then? I mean, was training? Where did you have nutritionalists? People talking about mental preparedness and your little black book with all your notes in?
No, not at all. I think I was part of the first intake of the Northland Academy at the time. And to be honest, I can hardly ever remember turning up to anything. I might have done one or two things, and I can't even really remember what they were about now. And then obviously making the Mitre 10 Cup team back in '99, or NPC back then. You know, we used to train on a Tuesday, Thursday night, just like club rugby, and then play against the Aucklands and the, Otagos and the Waikatos on a Saturday. And, it's just crazy. So, yeah, I remember going down at Okara Park, and Tuesday night with Donnie Stevenson and Bryce Woodward would be all about fitness, wouldn't be too much ball handling going on. And then Thursday we'd do a little bit of sort of team stuff, no analysis, no anything like that. And then, into playing rugby. And then obviously the academy side of it, these days, like you say, we've got nutritionists, we've got mental skills coaches. I look after the boys outside of rugby with professional development officers who look after their, outside of rugby stuff. Obviously, they've got the likes of myself and trainers looking after all that. So, it's night and day from when I was coming through, that's for sure.
So were you holding down a job at the same time as playing NPC, or were you using that time just to train on your own?
No. So I was a plumber apprentice back then. So I left school Form 6, which is year 12 now. After that year, and jumped into a plumbing apprenticeship, and I did that pretty much right through till 2003. I think I was still playing for Northland at the time. So working right through that.
So you broke into that Blues team in 2002 and 2003. So got a couple of seasons there. Was that were those title winning? Was that was after the?
Yeah, obviously great team. Even the 2002 team was a really good team. I think we got 6, and then 2003 we won it. And obviously, great to be part of that team. Some outstanding footballers in that team. Carlos Spencer, Rupini Thaufau, the Doug Howlett, Joe Rokothoko, Lee Stensness, all those guys, obviously stars for me. And then obviously to play with them was pretty unreal.
And always in that 12 jersey, or were you more of an outside back in your earlier days and sort of gravitated inwards, or?
No, I've always been sort of 12, 13, and obviously they had Sam Tutupo in that 2003 team, and I think they were using Rico Gear as well in the midfield, and obviously there's Lee Spencer, so I didn't get a lot of game time back then, and I suppose for me it was more of a learning environment and trying to get as much as possible out of those guys. So I think I played about 3 or 4 games, but not a lot. It was more just watching the likes of those guys go, really.
Well, according to Wikipedia, you got 6 games and 1 try.
Oh, there you go.
So, so was that your first experience of overseas trips for games, or had you travelled overseas with the age grades?
Yeah, so we went to, I think, 96, we went to Aussie with the New Zealand 16 side, and that team had Aaron Major, Ricky Flutie. So that was a pretty decent team. I think we lost over there. And then 99, we went to Wales for the Junior World Cup. That was the under 21s. So that was a real big experience for myself. Again, Richie McCaw, Aaron Major. I can't even remember. Like, that was a pretty stacked team. Jerry Collins, I think, was in it. We went over there, and it was the Junior World Cup, and we won that. Beat Wales in the final, and then yeah, and then I think the following year we went over to Australia. So I'd sort of been in that environment, done a little bit of traveling, but obviously, yeah, when I went to the Blues in 2002, we went to South Africa and the likes, and yeah, obviously there's another step up again.
Yeah, I've heard a few players sort of talk about that first trip over to South Africa and go, "Whoa, they're big boys."
Yeah.
Was that part of your kind of, wow, this is going to be physical? I bet I'm going to hurt after this one.
Yeah, I always remember. I think it was I come on late in the game, and it was me and Lee Stensness in the midfield, and I can't remember what move we did, and they gave the ball to me, and I hit it up, and I must have done all right because I come back into the back line, and I was having a talk to Lee Stensness. So I go, "Oh, these guys are soft," and then he's cracking up, and then next move or whatever, I took it up, and then I didn't get back up. They winded me, and I didn't live that one down. He was, I think I got fined at the hotel afterwards for being a clown. So yeah, no, they were big boys and strong, and obviously touring South Africa is a pretty tough place. So yeah, it was all good learning curve.
So we're chatting with Dean Kenny last week, I think it was, and he was talking about that those court sessions were really integral. He found in building up those team, the team culture.
Yeah.
So even in those early 2000s, Blues, Highlanders, Otago stuff, that was all still part of the culture.
Yeah, very much so. Very still, amateur, I suppose. But I remember the Northland team. We'd have a court session after every home game. Same with the Blues, the Highlanders. We'd still have those good old-fashioned court sessions, and I suppose that's where that team bonding comes through, and you become a pretty tight group team, and for me that was the early days anyway. That was a big part of rugby, and that's why I suppose I enjoyed playing it. I enjoyed playing hard on the field and enjoying a few beers off it with the lads. That was rugby for me.
Oh, maybe you have to do a retro session for to teach the academy boys what it used to be like as a one-off. Then you headed down to Otago for a couple of seasons, and you had a season out of Super Rugby. Just the opportunity's not there, or why did you decide to go down to South Island?
So yeah, 2003, I was playing for Northland, and we'd had a terrible year. I think it was the year before Glenn Taylor had retired. Obviously, a good captain up there, and 2003 we probably just didn't have the team, and I don't think we won a game, and I decided. I went down to Otago. I sort of thought I might have got a contract with the Highlanders, but it didn't quite work out. And then just ended up playing club rugby and then for Otago. But I think I did get called into the Highlanders for a few games in 2004, I think it was. So, and then I think I got a contract the following year. So yeah, I mean, I didn't play a lot of rugby down there in Dunedin. I think I ended up playing 14 games or something for Otago and a few for the Highlanders in that first stint. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time down there and met some pretty good people, and obviously played with some pretty, it was a pretty strong Otago team back then as well. So it was nice to mix and mingle with some of those guys.
So it was purely for the rugby. You didn't go down there for university, or you weren't.
Nah, so yeah, I went did some plumbing down there. Obviously, when I missed out on the Super Rugby side of it, I worked for a company called Foley's Plumbing down there, and then I was getting up early, going to the gym in the morning at like 5:36, and then doing a full day's work, and then training in the evening. So she was pretty tough graft, but that's what you got to do. Even the young guys today have to do that to make it. So that's just part and parcel of being a rugby player. Sometimes you're in teams, sometimes you're not.
And then I think you had a bit of a neck injury soon after that, didn't you? Which sort of put you out of Super Rugby action for a couple of years, and you also came up to Hawke's Bay.
Yeah. So yeah, in 2006 I broke my neck playing club rugby, and C5, C6, and then you had the operation, rehabbed, and then came back. Started 2007, and I came up to the Hawke's Bay, and
so how did So what? How did you break your neck? What happened?
I was just playing club rugby, and I always remember the 10 for the opposition team broke sort of through inside me, so I turned and went to chase back, and then the centre from the other team came through and gave me a bit of an elbow to the neck, and it must have just sort of whiplashed me. But I think, I mean, that might have been the final straw. I think it had sort of been wear and tear before that, and that was just sort of the icing on the cake that finished me off, really. So, yeah, I carried on playing. I sort of collapsed and carried on. I got back up and collapsed down again, and then I sort of must have come right, but I had these, always remember, big pins and needles down my right arm. Peter Sloan had always given me a bit of grief in the earlier days back when the Blues, making sure that if you're injured, like get up, get into the line, make sure you're filling a space, and then opportunity comes and you go see the physio. So I sort of had that mindset. So I got up and I just ended up carrying on playing. And then I think it was the Sunday or the Monday after the game on Saturday, I went and saw the physio and talked them through it. And yeah, ended up having an MRI scan and telling me, I was pretty lucky to still be walking. So yeah, it was pretty scary times.
So I mean, I've had lower back operations and have had it all fused and bolted together. Is that so? You've had your neck fused and put bolts in there and things, or
yeah. So they went through the front, they moved the voice box and that out of the way, and then they took some bone off my hip and screwed and plated that, and put me back together again. So obviously pretty big operation, especially back when the time I'd done it. I think obviously they're getting better and better at that stuff now. I think it's similar to what Sam Cane had done, right. And I think it was 6 months rehab. I think I had the operation and back running in December and started playing 7th of January. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty quick, really.
Yeah, I was pretty much, I think I was bed rest I did a desk job, but I was off work for 2 months with my back operation, lower back. So yeah, that's and I'm not bashing into people. So yeah, 6 months getting back into bashing people sounds like a pretty good turnaround. And clearly, the amount of rugby you've played since then, it's all healed well, and you've come good.
Yeah, I've been really lucky. Other guys that have had the same operation, like Darren Whitcomb, David Gibson, they've ended up having to. They did come back, but had to retire. I was pretty lucky. I got through pretty relatively unscathed. Obviously had the odd flare up, but through some rehab and good training, I managed to finish my career back in 2014. So I had a good run after that.
Yeah, David Gibson said he never felt the same. I had a chat with him a couple of last week. Again, he said that whilst he came back, he never felt he was back up to the same level as he was previously. So good performances for Hawke's Bay, got you back down in the Highlanders for a couple of years, and a call up to go to tour with the All Blacks. How was that?
Yeah, I think that's that's a bit of a Wikipedia special. I was
oh, really? Okay.
I had a bit of a call up to the All Blacks training squad in 2002 or 3, I think, after the Blues, but it was just more of a fitness session, fitness testing, etc. No, I didn't get. Unfortunately, I didn't get to tour or be a part of the All Blacks squad.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so folks, don't believe everything on Wikipedia. He didn't go on tour at the end of 2009 Winter Tour. Deary me, now do better research. But yeah, two good years down there again with the Highlanders. How did you find that, kind of having sort of living half the year in Hawke's Bay and then living half the year down in Otago? What kind of strain does that put on your life? And living out of the suitcase, do you have to have 2 homes? How do you handle all that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a big reason why I left and went over to Exeter. But I had a young daughter, might have had 2 daughters by the time. Yeah, I think the last stint I had two young daughters, and they didn't come down my last year with the Highlanders, 2010, I think it was, because they were at school. One of them was at school, and we didn't want to pull them out and in. So yeah, New Zealand rugby, or the way it is, especially if you're in Hawke's Bay and then moving to the Highlanders or Hurricanes or whatever it is, it's pretty tough on the family. So that was a big reason why we decided to up sticks and move over to England, so we could be in one place together and didn't have to move the girls around for half a year at a time.
Yeah, I had a chat with Tmenavalo a couple of years back, just before he moved over to Europe, and he was saying that he was lucky that his partner or his wife, I can't remember, had a job that she could move with him. Otherwise, it's it's very difficult when you've got a partner who, say, has a job in one place, but they can't move as well, so you end up spending a lot of time apart from each other.
Yeah, for sure. That was the toughest thing. My partner wasn't working, but obviously she's looking after 2 young kids, and we didn't really think it was right to pull them out of school and into a different school for 6 months. So that's a tough thing about rugby in New Zealand, with it all not being in the one place, I suppose.
And so the move to Exeter Chiefs, here we go, got the jersey again. I'm not so sure I'm on screen. The move to Exeter Chiefs. Then, how did that come about? Because I mean, you didn't go over there to win trophies and things, because they'd just been promoted. It was going to be a relegation scrap probably over there. How did you suddenly? What did you know about Exeter before you went over there to Salford, I guess?
Nothing. Honestly, 2010, when after the Highlanders season and just before Mitre 10 Cup, I told my agent to start looking for contracts overseas, because obviously I didn't want to do the travel anymore. And he come back and said, Rob Baxter from the Chiefs is keen to have you over there. Apparently he'd seen some video of me playing through someone else, so someone else had sent their CV to Exeter, and obviously my name kept on popping up for whatever reason, and he liked the look of me instead of that other guy. So when he heard that I was in the market, he jumped at the chance, and I didn't know anything about them at all, and that's exactly what I got told. I'd go over there, it's going to be pretty much a slog to stay up in the top division. They're expected to go straight back down, and that'd be the end of them. So it was a pretty big risk to go over there, but we decided to take the chance, and obviously it all worked out pretty well. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, they as Tony Rowe likes to tell, they had a 5-year plan to win Europe. Now that didn't quite happen, and people laughed at them. But hey, they've become one of the strongest sides in Europe, or definitely in England. From that. Now, so you didn't know anything about Exeter at all. So I went to university down in Exeter, and you might remember, or you might know a place called Dawlish. Now Dawlish, so this is to give people an idea as to where Exeter is. Dawlish has got a train platform, a train station with 2 platforms. One platform says Teignmouth, Tainton, and this is about 10 or so places heading towards Cornwall. The other platform says Exeter and beyond. Which gives you an idea. Exeter it's the end of the motorway. It's right at the bottom of the country. There's nothing beyond it. It is isolated. So a bit like Northern in some ways, I guess. In fact, that it's a sizable city, a bit like Fongaray, but it's a long way to get anywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, down in the southwest there. An hour from Bristol, 3.5 hours from London, on the N5 and then M1, I think. It's definitely out of the way. Cornwall's a couple of hours down further, and honestly, like I said, I didn't know anything about it. Didn't know that if it was a big city, small city. I just ended up, turned up there with my family, and just took it in my stride really. And obviously the team has performed outstandingly ever since, really. I think we got 8th, finished 8th in our first year, made Heineken Cup our second and third year, and they've just gone from strength to strength. Obviously, they've won the championship. They've been in the final 4 or 5 times with Saracens now. They're one of the big clubs in England, and they've done outstandingly well. Got some great coaches. Obviously, Tony Rowe is a very smart businessman and runs Exeter Chiefs at a profit, which not many clubs do. And they've got a real good team vibe and good coaching team and good playing group.
So when you first turned up, as I say, you're expecting a slog. You're expecting it's going to be a hard season, potentially relegation. What was the feel like pre-season that first year? Was there a good feel around the club, or what vibe did you have? I mean, you had no experience of European rugby, so
I turned up in November, so I played Mitre 10, so I missed the pre-season. and they played about 4 or 5 games in that first season. I think they had I think it was Gloucester first up, and they'd won. They beat Gloucester, and then I think they might have won the next game or narrowly lost to Leicester. I think they were winning away to Leicester right up until the last few minutes, and went down narrowly to Leicester, who was obviously a really strong team back then. And I think they might have picked up 1 or 2 other wins or another win before I got there. So when I arrived, the club was they were humming. I think I arrived on the Wednesday, and I think they had an LV game against Wasps, who was obviously another really strong team over there, on the Saturday or Friday night, and I ended up playing that game, and I think we ended up beating Wasps by maybe 50 points, or might not have been that, but the team was just on a roll. Even the LV team, which, if people don't know, sort of normally big teams will put their second string team out in the LV Cup, or what was called the LV Cup. Which is games against English teams and Welsh teams, and put a second string team out there and gave Wasps a bit of a toweling, really. So, and we just went pretty much from strength to strength through there. Obviously, we lost a few games to the big teams like Saracens, etc. in that first year, but getting 8 was a pretty big achievement.
Oh, it was massive. I mean, it's a 12-team league for those that don't know. And last place is the one that goes down. So being 3 or 4 places above that, heading towards the end of the season, knowing you're actually safe, was an amazing feeling for the fans. Was not what anyone had kind of prophesized or expected, because Exeter had also been to get promoted. They'd had 2 massive games against Bristol, who were the much richer, bigger, better historied club, just to get promoted. So they weren't even the favourites to get promoted in the first place. So yourself there. I think, was it Junior Pulianganga was also was somebody you probably knew from New Zealand, but all the other players were pretty much been fairly new.
Yeah, I didn't know too many. Hawani Tui, not too many people probably know Hawani, but Wellington born, I think, but maybe played a game for 2 for Taranaki. And the other guy that I didn't really know, but Sorelli Nakalambuki, he played for the Stormers in the midfield. So he just turned up, and obviously ended up being one of the stars for Exeter in those early few years in the Premiership. There wasn't too many other stars in that team.
He was a big boy in a kind of the same mould as someone like Nadolo. Give it to him 5 yards out, and he's going to get over on the wing. I remember I think he scored against Worcester Warriors in a sort of overtime to win a game as well. Yeah, so having someone like that who you can, as a sort of get out of jail card, to bash it up, must be nice on the outside.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, like you said, we had Nadaldo there as well. I don't think he ended up playing too many games because I think we had too many foreigners. And I think actually that first year we mucked it up somehow and played too many foreigners or something, and we lost a few points. So
yeah, the story behind that one is he turned up with his Australian passport rather than his Fijian one.
Yeah,
and therefore was considered a foreign player, whereas the island players are not considered foreign players. But because he entered on the wrong on his own passport, don't get me wrong, it wasn't illegal, but it wasn't the Fijian passport. He was considered an overseas player. So England got docked. So not England, Exeter got docked points.
Yeah, so you're making that 8th position was obviously even sweeter back then for sure.
So what was it about that about the culture down there that because I mean a whole bunch of players have gone down there. They've talked about the special culture. You've talked. We mentioned briefly the kind of court sessions. I don't think they hold those, but they do have beers on the bus, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. Coming from New Zealand, I suppose I thought I'd seen it all. Been in the rugby scene a long time. I didn't think too much would faze me, but got over there, and those guys are just another level. So obviously they play hard, but they also party hard. For those people who don't know, obviously Exeter being pretty isolated, like we've said, we used to have big bus trips, so we didn't really fly anywhere. we used to get on the Exeter bus and travel up to Newcastle, and that'd be an 8-10 hour bus trip. And you'd bus up, stay the night, play the game, and then pretty much bus straight back. You wouldn't stay in a hotel that following night. So, we'd get home 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning sometimes from those sort of places. And the boys like to have a few beers, and Rob Baxter would be at the front coaching the rugby game, and everyone else would be down the back having a few beers and enjoying each other's company. So, I thought they struck the balance really well. Obviously, when it came to work, we worked hard, we trained hard. Those coaches, Ali Heffer, Rob Baxter, Rob Hunter came on in the later years. Great minds of the game, analyze of opposition, just the detail that goes into it's outstanding. But they knew when to relax and when to rest players, and I suppose the team really enjoyed each other's company off the field, which obviously helps on the field.
And so people that don't also know, Rob Baxter was a lock for Exeter Chiefs, and then his dad also played for Exeter Chiefs. His brother was playing for Exeter Chiefs at the time that you were there. Richie Baxter was the number 8. So there was it was very much a family thing, a family journey as well as a club journey, because they'd also moved from the Greyhound track out to Sandy Park, which is a better stadium, etc. So there was a massive journey and story there with the whole club, and also with the Baxters as well. A couple of players who have, I think, probably the last of the kind of what's been termed the originals, Phil Dolman and Gareth Steenson, are kind of I think are just about hanging up their boots. Did you go back for any of Gareth Steenson's sort of testimonial events or anything like that? Because I know he tried to put together an originals team.
Yeah, so I think Gareth Steeno had his testimonial a couple of years ago now, so I didn't get the chance to head over, but I headed over last year in October or whenever it was for Phil Dolly's testimonial, which is great. So got another run on Sandy Park. I'd actually just blown out my knee playing a bit of club rugby, thought I could still play a bit of club rugby at my age, so I ended up doing a PCL, and then Phil rang me up and goes, "Oh, well, you want to come over for my testimonial game?" And I was like, I just couldn't turn it down. So I jumped on the plane, strapped up the knee, and I had a run around for the Exeter team, which was great. And we played a Welsh invitational team because Phil's obviously a Welsh boy. Played a lot. Played against some obviously international boys, which was great fun and great catching up with the boys again. And had a good chat to Rob and the coaching team as well. So that was fantastic.
To give people a couple of ideas. So there's two guys who played for Exeter in the Championship, so the second division, and then played also then into the Premiership. Phil Dolman would have been capped by Wales, except he got injured in something like the game before a tour. Gareth Steenson, another player that if he'd stayed in Ireland, probably would have been capped by Ireland, and there was talk of getting capped by England on residency grounds, but I think he pretty much was like, no, I'm Irish. So whilst two players that people will say, oh, they never made it to internationals, they were that kind of level though, weren't they?
Yeah, for sure. And obviously on the field they were great players for Exeter, but off the field they were even better. Steeno's the life of the party, or Gareth, I should say. Phil's just a good man who I suppose brings people together. So for me to have the chance to go over there and be part of a special occasion for him, I think 10 years at the club at the time was awesome. So great players on the field, but even better guys off it.
And Steeno went on to, now has opened up a bar.
He has,
in Exeter, so perhaps a bit dangerous but let's hope he doesn't drink away the profits. So 4 years over there, came back one last season with Hawke's Bay. So Hawke's Bay was sort of had become home before you left, and that was sort of where you're always going to come back to.
Yeah, well, obviously originally from Whangarei, and my wife is as well. Her parents live in Tauranga. My parents are still Whangarei, so there was always that argument about where we were going to come back and live. Moved to Hawke's Bay, and we both loved it. So when we left, we decided that we're going to come back and make Hawke's Bay our home. Obviously, our middle child was born here, so it just felt right to come back. And obviously Danny Lee was coaching the Magpies at the time when I come back in 2014, and obviously I played a lot of rugby with Danny over the years, so it was easy to come back, have that one more year, and get into life here back in the Bay.
And how much? Also, you're now working in the academy. So, had you been taking your coaching badges while you were with Exeter? Was coaching always something you had planned?
Yeah, I've done level 2 over in England, and yeah, I suppose I obviously want to keep your options open. And I'm not sure coaching's where I want to head. I quite enjoy the academy pathway, so helping the boys reach their potential, whether that's through their rugby skills or, like you say, helping them with their mental side. Getting providers in, just helping them, with a quiet word, for example. And obviously we've got some great coaches here with, Mark Ozich and Josh Sims, and I can fit in and help those guys when needed. But yeah, I'm not sure coaching's where I want to go down, but I enjoy helping the youth of so the ones coming through.
But so you're not actually coaching the academy team?
No, it's not. Well, it's not really a team. So we have an academy group per se, and they could be various ages from 18 right through to 21, 22. So we do play games. We have an academy team, and we play against Wellington and Manawatu, the Hurricanes region at the start of the year. So I do coach that, and I have coached club rugby at Taradale here in Hawke's Bay, and obviously help out Oz and that. But it's probably not a route or coach, like it's not a pathway I'm going to go down. For example, I really want to be a Super Rugby coach or a Mitre 10 Cup coach. It's more of a sort of offshoot of the academy role.
So what's so when what does an academy role do then? If you're not coaching an academy team, you mentioned they're bringing in providers. What kind of what's your normal week look like?
Yeah, so we have 3 to 4 gym sessions a week with the boys, and in that we'll do skill sessions. So we work hard on catch, pass, tackle, clean out, just running into contact, etc. So we work really hard with the boys' skills. So we break those down, right down to micro skills, we say. So we work really hard on the basics with them, and then in the evenings we either have a nutrition seminar, mental skills seminar. It might be a PD, it could be anything from learning how to change the oil in your car to cleaning your flat, or we try and make it interesting with life out of rugby. Could be a banking seminar, just trying to get them ready for the real world as well as rugby. So I suppose my job is to give them a taste of being a professional, making sure they're turning up on time, doing their analysis for their club teams, and I'll hold them to account with that. So it's just a little taster for them to become a professional, so when they do step into that professional rank, it's not so much of a shock for them.
So how many good plumbers have you produced so far?
Not too many good plumbers. All the boys seem to like the building route these days.
Yes, and actually, well, today was the budget was announced, and yeah, there's going to be a whole bunch more of building training courses available. So I guess you'll have been keeping an eye on that side of things as to what opportunities are available for the boys to pick up apprenticeships or training courses like that as well.
Yeah, that's a big part of my role, trying to guys from leaving school and then getting into it's obviously a big transition in their life, so helping them find a job, get a trade, or whether that's study. So we've had a couple of guys from Hawke's Bay go down to Victoria University. So obviously we haven't got a university here, but we try and accommodate the boys, so they'll go away for Vic, and we try and get them back in the school holidays and work with them. So hopefully they become a magpie, and we don't lose those guys to Wellington or whoever. So that's another big part. So talent ID and keeping the good rugby players that we produce here in Hawke's Bay and Hawke's Bay.
Right. Okay. So not having a university in Nelson, not Nelson. What am I talking about? In Napier. Sorry, that's what I'm looking for. Is that part of a challenge for you? Well, I mean, obviously it's something you can't change, so you have to live with it. But is that a challenge to retain some people?
Yeah, very much so. You have to think outside the square. So we've got a great EIT here, but obviously a lot of guys want to go to university and experience that. So, for example, using Vic, we've got a couple of guys down there who do their thing, but we still keep in contact, and obviously using the likes of Skype and Zoom and do a lot of educational that way with them. So yeah, it's obviously got its challenges, but you just got to work with what you've got.
And obviously you've had a particularly good bunch of players come through in Tuala, Fakatava, who else was part of that crowd from blank?
Flanders, Keanu, Kiriru Sives, yeah, all those guys out of Hastings boys, yeah.
Have all come through Napier boys at the same sort of time.
Yeah.
Did you actually get any time with them, or do they just sort of flash straight through the academy? And so obviously they're still young, so they might even be younger than some of your academy guys. So do you still work with them even though they're in the Magpies?
Yeah, so they were in the academy 2 years ago now. So their last year of school and their first year out of school, I think. But like you say, they were pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered to already when they were at school. So I didn't have a lot of time with those guys. They were in the academy, but sort of under Oz and Josh as well at the same time. So it was sort of a bit of a tough one, that one. So we just sort of did the best we could. And I suppose that's the dilemma you've got, whether, you've got these young, talented guys coming through and they're getting rushed into the system, but making sure mentally and physically they're actually ready for that next step is challenging. And that's what all provincial unions are battling with, I suppose, whether to keep that talent or not give them a contract and they might head off somewhere else. So Hawke's Bay decided to sign those guys. I think it was 8 of them at the time. And, it's paid off for Hawke's Bay because those guys are performing really well for Hawke's Bay at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did had a chat with Mark and Josh, and they not only did they get fast tracked into the Magpies, but then you ended up with Webber away with the All Blacks, plus the 9 and 10. The 10 and 12 have gone blank now since the names injured for quite a stretch. So you ended up suddenly with this. I think it was 8, 9, 10, 12, who were all from Napier boys, straight out of a year out of school, suddenly running the show, which was not quite the plan, but hey, it worked out. And how have you found COVID-19, and how has that impacted you? As we've said, it's your first day back in the office, even if you are in a t-shirt, not in proper office attire. How have the last sort of 6-8 weeks been? Yeah,
it's been crazy. It feels like a dream, I think. Obviously pretty scary initially. Went into lockdown, didn't really know what was going to happen, how many cases we'd get. But then obviously settled into life with the family. So I got 3 kids. Obviously my youngest boy was born in Exeter, so he's a good English lad. So yeah, we were locked down, and I'm quite lucky. I've got 5 acres, so I roamed around that, did a bit of stuff around home, plenty of time on Zoom and Skype, chatting with the lads. So I kept in contact. Our academy still ran through that time, but obviously we had to do it in the virtual world like pretty much everyone else. So we're doing cooking classes and technical sessions online, and just whatever we could think of to keep the boys interested. Yeah, but personally it was pretty tough as well. You go through those tough times, and probably 3 or 4 weeks in when you're just mentally sort of done, but you got to keep getting up and keep being positive, and obviously the kids sort of keep you in check as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I actually, in the end, I really enjoyed I suppose, what was it, 7-8 weeks. I think it really mentally refreshed me, and I think for a lot of people, it's been sort of a blessing in disguise. But obviously, we've got to get back into it and hopefully get the economy cranking along, and get ourselves out of the mess that we're in. So
5 acres. Do you want keep some horses, or got a little orchard? What do you do with your lifestyle block?
I've got some lambs. I do some kuma and some pumpkin. So a little bit of cropping. I've always dreamed of having an avocado orchard. Obviously, coming from up north, I've always dreamed of having an avocado orchard, but not quite there yet. So maybe if I can get my hands on a bit more land, I can put a few avocados in. But could be a bit dicey down in Hawke's Bay. I think it might be a bit cold, but we'll see. We have to do a bit of research and see if we can get some avocados in there.
There you go. Perhaps that's a personal development project for one of the boys in the academy to learn.
Yeah, idea.
Give them a case study. There's some nice vineyards down there, obviously, as well. So you could go down that route and start making Shoemark wine.
Yeah, sure. It sounds good.
Chateau de Shoemark.
My wife doesn't get that, I think.
Oh dear. And so basically you ran all those sessions as normal, and then also did you give sort of challenges to who can find the funkiest thing to do weightlifting with, or because also, yeah, I mean that's been one of the things we've seen some of the black ferns. I saw one of them. She was weightlifting with a sheep. Who obviously she obviously lives on a farm somewhere. So did you have to? Did you manage to get kit out for the guys to be able to train at home, or did they have to improvise?
Yeah, no, the boys did really well actually. You know, obviously they all went through different stages during the lockdown, and some of them dropped off. But you know, we managed to pull them all back. So I mean, they did really well. We ran. You know, we didn't focus just on rugby. We tried to have, like you say, talent quests, and like they had to post up their thing, some sort of trick or talent that they had, and we all rated them. You know, it didn't have to be rugby related, so that was a good laugh. Obviously, we did the cooking classes, we had quizzes. Yeah, so yeah, it was actually really good, and probably some of the, you know, the Zoom stuff and the Skype, you know, we'll probably use that more than we have in the past, you know, so it probably changed, you know, what we've done probably change and move into the future as well.
Oh, if you've had quizzes, then look, we have Do You Know Sports is a quiz show on New Zealand Sport Radio every Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Okay.
So if you've got two boys who are good at sports quizzes, maybe they could enter that.
Sounds good.
Teams of two for that. We could have maybe do a coaches versus or academy staff versus academy students.
Yeah, it could be a good one.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Jason. Thank you very much. Anything else you wanted to say about what you guys are doing down in the Hawke's Bay that to let the supporters know about?
Not off the top of my head. Obviously, you know, we've got some pretty young talent down here. We always produce pretty good talent. So hopefully, in the next few years, you'll see those guys coming through and performing for Hawke's Bay. That's our plan, anyway.
Cool. Thank you very much, and good luck with the avocado orchard and also the academy down there. Thank you everyone for watching. Please don't forget to like the Facebook page. Also, if you prefer to listen, then you can subscribe to the podcast and search for New Zealand Sports Radio on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Acast, all your favorite podcasting apps. So do check those out. Thank you very much again to Jason, and thank you everyone for watching.